Namaste. Welcome to this 39th symposium of Indica. Symposiums are different from conferences. In conferences, we invite abstracts, we select speakers based on the abstracts, whereas in symposiums, we invite experts and the speakers of today's event also, because it's a symposium, invited speakers on a specific topic. We are able to conduct more symposiums than conferences. Interestingly, actually, we started with conferences. Symposiums were added later, but we are able to conduct more symposiums than conferences because we made symposiums a monthly event. Every month we have definitely one symposium. Next month also we have a symposium on the 22nd of June. It is going to be on New Age spirituality. I'll announce the next month's symposium once again during today's symposium also. We will have a symposium on New Age spirituality, Vedic roots of New Age spirituality, all the ideas of New Age spirituality, how they are rooted in the Vedic culture, Vedic tradition, and Vedic sources. Indica, as you all know, is committed to the preservation, protection, and promotion of India, Indic culture, Indian knowledge systems. In all the forms of Indian knowledge systems, the textual knowledge, the embodied knowledge, the experiential knowledge, material knowledge of Indian knowledge systems. As part of that, we have conducted several conferences, workshops, and symposiums. We have a platform called Indica Courses. We conduct courses on that. We have several wings for soft power and many other aspects of Indic culture. If you go to the website of Indic Academy, you will be able to see how many wings we have and how many activities we perform. So symposium is only one of the many activities that Indica organizes as part of its commitment for the preservation, protection, and promotion of Indian knowledge systems and Indian culture. Today's topic was chosen long time back. We wanted to conduct symposiums on Ramayana when the Pratishtha of Ayodhya was taking place. Ramlalla's Pratishtha was taking place. And also there was another context. We had a plan to conduct plurality symposiums, not just for Ramayana. We are in future going to have multiple versions of Mahabharata, conference on multiple versions of Mahabharata, multiple versions of Bhagavata. Actually, there are narratives based on Ramayana, having characters of Ramayana, but new stories that are there in the tradition, in folk, forest dwelling, and classical traditions of all the Indian languages. There are stories having Ramayana characters, but they are not Ramayana itself. There is, for example, a story of Rama and Hanuman getting into a fight when Hanuman gives shelter to Yayati. There are stories where Hanuman actually visits Dwapara Yuga and meets Krishna. And there is a fight between Krishna and Hanuman also. Like that, there are many other stories that are there in the tradition, which are probably invented or innovated by some ancestral folk narrative composers. Similarly, we have stories connected to Mahabharata, stories with characters of Mahabharata, but not Mahabharata itself. Stories with characters from Mahabhagavata, but not Bhagavata itself. All those topics also will be taken up in future by Indica for our symposiums. This shows the plurality of our narrative traditions. Today, our topic has been worded as traditional retellings, not just traditional retellings, studies on traditional retellings. These two are very important words. Retellings of Ramayana happened during modern times also by some contemporary authors, but they cannot be considered traditional retellings. Let me classify these retellings into traditional retellings of pre-modern times, traditional retellings during modern times, non-traditional or anti-traditional retellings of modern times. All the pre-modern versions of Ramayana have been traditional only. There were no anti-traditional or non-traditional versions of Ramayana during the pre-modern times. All the non-traditional and anti-traditional retellings of Ramayana happened only during the modern period. And what we call studies on these multiple versions of Ramayana also happened only during modern times. In ancient times, there were no studies on multiple versions of Ramayana. So during modern times, you have two different phenomena. One is studies on the multiple versions of Ramayana happened during modern time. And during modern time, you have two kinds of retellings, new versions of Ramayana, traditional retellings, traditional versions of Ramayana composed during modern times, and non-traditional or anti-traditional retellings or versions of Ramayana that came up during modern times. As an organization committed to the protection of Indic culture, we want to take on the non-traditional or anti-traditional studies on multiple versions of Ramayana and retellings of Ramayana both. That is the purpose of this symposium. That is why we are focusing on the traditional retellings, and we want to show how these traditional retellings are different from the modern retellings of Ramayana and modern studies, some of the non-traditional and anti-traditional uh, studies on the multiple versions of Ramayana. During modern times, there is an urge on the part of modern writers to question the ideas inside Ramayana from the value system of modern times. For example, if someone is saying equality, And equality is the value from which I am looking at, say, the character of Sita, or they are using words like patriarchy, uh, and we are looking at patriarchy in Ramayana. They are reading these new values. Liberty, equality, fraternity are the values which came from modern political thought. And this idea of male superiority, male chauvinism, patriarchy, all these are the words coined during the feminist movement, uh, which is more recent than the movements which brought those words like equality and all that. By reading those concepts, what they did is they retold Ramayana, imagining how they would have wished the characters in Ramayana to have responded correctly from the modern point of view. For example, an author in Telugu literature called Chalam, Gudipati Venkata Chalam, he writes a play uh, with the title Sita Agni Pravesham, Sita's entry into fire. One would expect that the story is all about Sita's entry into fire as narrated in Valmiki's Ramayana. But if you read the play, what you see there in the play is that Sita, when actually there is a lot of distortion from original Valmiki Ramayana. In Valmiki's Ramayana, Sita is not asked by Rama to enter fire. All that happens there is that Rama says, I completed my task of saving you from the abductor. It is not as if I have the possessive idea of having my wife with me and I want to snatch my wife back and all that. I fulfilled the duty of saving not just my wife, but also a person who is abducted by the Rakshasa. Now, technically, you are completely free. You may go where you like. And it is then that Sita herself takes a decision by, after arguing a lot with Rama, after chiding Rama, that to think that way was common manly on the part of Rama. It was not noble on the part of Rama to think like that. And then she asks the Lakshmana to arrange the fire, and all on her own, she enters the fire. All that Rama does is to overlook that activity, that act of Sita to enter the fire. Then all the devatas, all his ancestors like Dasharatha, everyone comes from the upper lokas and they chide Rama for allowing Sita to take the decision and entering fire. But during modern times, what they did is they created an impression among people that it is Rama who asked Sita to take an ordeal, fire ordeal, and he asks Sita to enter fire. This is a completely distorted version, but somehow is in a very big circulation during modern period among all the people interested in knowing the Ramayana story. This person, this author, Chalam, he takes this version and makes Rama ask Sita to enter fire. And then Sita responds by saying, I despise your attitude, Rama. You have asked me to enter fire to prove my chastity. You are doubting my chastity simply because I stayed in the place of the Rakshasa for so many years. Now I realize that Ravana is a better lover than you because he has not touched me during all this time, but he was only loving me and loving me alone. So now I realize that Ravana is a better choice for me. And she says that now Ravana's fire is still uh, there. The flames are still there. Flames of Ravana's fire are still there. I will enter that as a Sati Sagamana. I will uh, join Ravana. Instead of entering this fire, you created as fire ordeal for me. This argument by Sita and these words from Sita's mouth for any traditional uh, receiver of Ramayana are completely abhorring, uh, completely repelling. And if it would have been these times when this modern author composed this play, there would have been a lot of reaction, the kind of reaction that we are able to see from the Hindu side on social media and on the streets and all that. But he got away with writing this kind of a version of that episode of Sita's fire. This is an example of how these modern retellings of some episodes of Ramayana or the entire Ramayana wanted to place their modern perspective to uh, the audience by not just analyzing, it is not an essay, analyzing from modern perspective. It is a new version of Ramayana which shows how the author would have liked the characters inside Ramayana to have reacted from a modern ideology perspective to have reacted to a certain situation. There are other uh, studies, these are retellings. There are studies of Ramayana. For example, there is this book called Many Ramayanas. Today we are going to have Aryamba Sriramji to be reviewing that book. This was edited by one Richa Paulman, and contributors were many people, including a Telugu scholar called Velcheru Narayana Rao. All their articles on multiple versions, folk Ramayanas, Southeast Asian Ramayanas, and multiple Ramayanas are included in this book. The same author, same editor, Richa Paulman, came up with another book, probably including the same articles and same edition, but with a different title. The new title is Questioning Ramayanas. That very title shows their attitude, questioning Ramayanas. So, in both these, many Ramayanas and questioning Ramayanas, there is this attitude of searching for voices that are against tradition inside the traditional Ramayanas. For example, they are searching for folk Ramayanas where Sita does the kind of things that I was showing what happens in a Telugu recent modern retelling. Sita chiding Rama and saying that she loves Ravana and all that. Such things, if they exist inside the traditional Ramayanas, they searched for. And in those Ramayanas, in the study of these Ramayanas, they come up with an argument that yes, all the folk Ramayanas and the Southeast Asian Ramayanas and other Vanvasi Ramayanas and other non-classical Ramayana versions have even ideologically a different position, a different argument than the traditional argument in the traditional Ramayanas. And they are happy that their modern values are reflected in those Ramayanas. But in fact, that's not true. Their this so-called discovery of modern ideas in those traditional folk Ramayanas, traditional classical Ramayanas in multiple languages of India, having some new value and all that is a completely, sometimes it's a false information, sometimes it's a false interpretation, false understanding. In fact, one person wanted to shoot a documentary series based on this Many Ramayanas book and particularly Velcheru Narayana Rao's article, where he got an impression from Velcher Narayana's article that in Telugu folk Ramayanas, this kind of rebellion against Rama by Sita is there. Sita chides Rama. Those episodes are there. Is the impression this documentary filmmaker got, and he came to the department of university where I was working, and we all took him to a tribal, we took him to several places for documentation of folk Ramayanas. We, whatever number of Ramayanas he saw with our help, he was not able to find any evidence for this distorted impression that he got from Velcher Narayana's article that there is a rebellion by Sita against Rama and he scolds Rama and people scold Rama in the story and all that he did not get. But finally, we were in a tribal hamlet. There was an emotion. He's a Marathi person. He from Bombay, so he was not able to understand the language. We had to interpret the language for him. But from the emotions of the singers, he was able to see that they were weeping. And the story was a Lava Kusha story, Uttara Ramayana story. So probably he thought that, yeah, now at this episode, Sita is scolding Rama, and he wanted to interview that woman. And I was the translator. I was translating his English sentences to them. His question was, are you now scolding Rama? Uh, Then immediately, actually, there was a violent response from the whole tribal hamlet. That's a totally different story. But the argument given by the women who were singing, they were all tribal women. It was a women circular dance song. They were doing a circular dance while singing. All those women questioned him. They retaliated through their rejoinder. They said, being educated, can't you realize the weeping that was being performed by us in the song is the suffering of the two members of a couple. Both the couple, after separation, are suffering. We are singing that suffering on the part of Sita, on the part of Rama. Both the sufferings we were singing at that time. So, don't you realize, being educated, don't you realize that Ramayana is all about that suffering for the sake of some dharma? King duty bound does something, but personally he has got some agony arising out of that. That is what we are singing. He is performing the duty of a king only. Don't you realize, being educated, are you not able to realize, is what they asked him. But the interview did not continue longer because there was violent reaction from the Hamlet against the filmmakers and they had to pack up from the place. But this shows that this many Ramayanas book led to this filmmaker getting an impression that such a thing is happening in the folk and Vanvasi forest dwelling Ramayanas. Aryambaji is going to counter that, and we have another review today of another book by Ananda Neelakanthan. But what we have to realize is that many decades or at least a century before this many Ramayanas book was published, already the multiple versions of Ramayana was studied by pro-Indic Indologist Professor V. Raghavan. Professor V. Raghavan published several books on Ramayana. Each of them has a deep study of Ramayana versions in the Indian subcontinent, within Indian languages, classical literatures, and Asian Ramayanas is one book that Professor V. Raghavan published. And he published a Ramayana in Sanskrit and Prakrit, other than Valmiki Ramayana, non-Valmiki Ramayanas in Sanskrit and Prakrit. And he covered a very big landscape of multiplicity of Ramayanas through his multiple works. The same author, Professor V. Raghavan, but covered a lot of landscape of multiple versions of Ramayana. It happened many decades before Velcheru Narayan Rao and the team came up with that book of many Ramayanas or questioning Ramayanas. Later, many other authors also came up. We, during the announcement for this symposium, made an announcement listing all these studies of Ramayanas by multiple versions of Ramayanas by different authors. And we offered that we will send a copy of the book to the reviewer if they come forward to review these books. Finally, we got two such acceptances. One is by Aramba Sriram, the other is by Deepak Emal. These two are going to review the books, contemporary studies on multiple versions of Ramayana. And the other talks today are going to be on other multiple versions of Ramayana that might not have come to the notice of general public. For example, Jaina Ramayanas have not been highlighted. We have speakers like Parshva Shah who are going to focus on Jaina Ramayanas. We have a speaker who is going to talk about a version called Moola Ramayana, which is believed in by Madhva tradition, Vaita Sampradaya, Madhvacharya's followers. Immediately after my talk, we are going to have a talk by B.A.C. Nair on the Moola Ramayana, which is taken as Pramanika by Madhva tradition. And we have Adhyatma Ramayana being studied by Dr. Sushumna Kannanji from the perspective of Sita, how Sita is projected. Sita is shown in Adhyatma Ramayana. She's a scholar who has done a lot of anti-feminist analysis, showing traditional women's studies perspective. And we have Manisha ji covering more than 50 versions of Ramayana composed by the same author in Marathi. We have Vaijayanti ji covering Tamil Ramayana versions. Very interesting mini Ramayana versions. Actually, there was a tendency of composing Sankshipta versions during 17th century. Uh, there were Sankshipta Ramayana, Sankshipta Mahabharata, Sankshipta Mahabhagavata getting composed. I saw when I was in Chicago, a colleague of mine at Chicago University uh, taking up a project on these Sankshipta versions of Ramayana, Bharata, Bhagavata getting composed in the 17th century. But these mini Ramayanas are not from 17th century; they are much older versions of mini Ramayana in two texts of Tamil literature being studied by Vijayantiji. So we have coverage of Southeast Asian Ramayanas also by Anshuji. We have coverage of all kinds, Jaina, Southeast Asian, Tamil, Marathi, Madhva, Adhyatma Ramayana. So there is a diversity of coverage of topics. Uh, we have a big lineup of wonderful scholars who have come up with deep study of all these multiple versions, and also we have two reviews of studies on multiple versions of Ramayana for today. So once again, I welcome you all to this symposium.